My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while I was washing collard greens, my hands slick with water and the gritty residue that never quite comes off no matter how many times you rinse them, and I almost didn't pick up. It was a voice note from my daughter Maya, 15 years old, and usually not one to send voice messages to me. She saved those for her friends, for the group chats I wasn't part of and didn't need to be. We texted. Short, efficient messages. When you coming home? Did you eat? Can Destiny sleep over? That was our language. So when I saw her name with the little audio wave underneath, I dried my hands on the dish towel and pressed play, expecting her to be asking for something, permission or money or a ride. What I heard instead made my blood turn to ice water. "Girl, I'm telling you she doesn't know," Maya's voice said, breathless and excited in the way teenagers get when they're sharing something they think is scandalous. "She has no idea. My dad's been doing it for months, and she's completely clueless. He thinks he's so slick, but I saw the texts. I saw everything." There was a pause, and I could hear her moving, maybe pacing, the sound of her breathing close to the phone. "And the crazy part is, it's her friend, like someone she actually trusts. Can you believe that? I don't even know what to do. Do I tell her? Do I just—" The message cut off. I stood there in my kitchen in Southeast DC, greens still soaking in the sink, the smell of vinegar sharp in my nose, and I played it again, and again, and a fourth time, like if I listened close enough, the words would rearrange themselves into something that didn't shatter my entire life. My daughter was talking about me, about her father, my husband of 17 years, Marcus, and about him cheating on me with someone I knew, someone I trusted. And she'd sent the voice note to me by accident when she'd meant to send it to one of her friends. I picked up my phone with shaking hands and called my lawyer. If you're wondering how a woman goes from washing greens to calling a lawyer in under 3 minutes, stick with me. Because what happened next unraveled everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my family, and who I could trust when the ground opened up beneath my feet. The lawyer's name was Patricia Okafor, and I'd met her exactly once before, 2 years ago, at a fundraiser for the community center where I volunteered. We talked for maybe 20 minutes about her work in family law, about the kinds of cases she took, about how she'd grown up in Trinidad and come to the States for law school and never left. She'd given me her card and told me if I ever needed anything, to call. I'd tucked it in my wallet and forgotten about it, until now. She answered on the third ring. "Patricia Okafor. Ms. Okafor, this is Shanice Williams. We met at the community center fundraiser about 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember me, but I remember. What's going on?" Her voice was calm, direct, and I felt something in my chest unclench slightly. "I just found out my husband is cheating on me. My daughter sent me a voice note by accident and I need to know what to do." "Okay. First, take a breath. Are you safe right now?" "I'm home. He's at work." "Good. Do you have the voice note?" "Yes." "Don't delete it. Don't confront him yet. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? First thing? I work at 7. Can you come at 6? I'll open early for you." I should have asked about her rate, about whether I could afford her, about any number of practical things. But all I could think about was Maya's voice saying, "She has no idea," and the image of Marcus, my Marcus, the man I'd woken up next to that very morning, with someone else, someone I knew. "I'll be there," I said. "Good. And Shanice, don't do anything tonight. Don't look through his phone, don't ask questions, don't let on that you know. Can you do that?" "I don't know." "You can. You're stronger than you think. I'll see you tomorrow." She hung up and I stood there holding the phone, and then I did the only thing I could think to do. I called my sister. Kendra picked up on the first ring. "Hey, what's up? Marcus is cheating on me." Silence. Then, what? Maya sent me a voice note by accident. She was talking to one of her friends, I think, and she said Marcus has been cheating on me for months with someone I know, someone I trust. Oh my God, Shanice, I don't know who it is. I don't know anything except what I heard. Did you confront him? No, the lawyer said not to. You already called a lawyer? I called Patricia Okafor. You remember her? From the fundraiser? Vaguely. What did she say? She said come to her office tomorrow morning and don't do anything tonight. Don't look through his phone, don't ask questions, just act normal. Kendra exhaled, long and slow. Can you do that? I have to. You want me to come over? No. He'll know something's wrong. I just needed to tell someone, or I was going to explode. Okay. Call me if you need me anytime. I mean it. I will. I hung up and went back to the greens, my hands moving on autopilot, pulling them from the water and checking for grit, cutting away the tough stems. The house was quiet, in that way it gets in the afternoon when everyone's gone. Marcus at work, Maya at school, the neighbors either working or inside with their lives proceeding normally. My life had just detonated and the world was still turning like nothing had happened. I thought about who it could be. Someone I trusted. Someone I knew. That narrowed it down, but not by much. I had friends from church, the ladies from the usher board, the women in the choir who I'd known for years. I had friends from work, nurses and techs and administrators I'd worked alongside for over a decade. I had friends from the neighborhood, women I'd watched their kids grow up alongside Maya, who I'd borrowed sugar from and lent books to and shared gossip with over coffee on Saturday mornings. I had my sister, but that was ridiculous. Kendra would never. I had my cousin Tasha, but she lived in Atlanta and I hadn't seen her in over a year. I had Cheryl from book club, who I'd known since our kids were in elementary school together, who came to my house once a month for wine and discussion about whatever novel we'd picked. I had Simone from work, who'd been my work wife for 5 years, who knew everything about me, who I'd trusted with my complaints and my fears and my dreams. The thought of it being Simone made my stomach turn, but I pushed it away. I couldn't start guessing. I couldn't start spinning out. I had to stay calm, stay focused, get through the next 18 hours without falling apart. Marcus came home at 6:30, same as always. I heard his keys in the door, heard him drop his bag in the hallway, heard him call out, "I'm home." "In the kitchen," I called back, and my voice sounded normal. It sounded like me. He came in and kissed my cheek, his lips dry and quick, and I wanted to flinch away, but I didn't. He smelled like outside, like the metro and other people's cologne, and something I couldn't name. He looked the same, 6 feet tall, brown skin, close-cropped hair starting to gray at the temples, the reading glasses he'd started wearing pushed up on his head. He looked like the man I'd married, the man I'd built a life with, the man who'd held my hand in the delivery room when Maya was born and cried harder than I did. He looked like a stranger. "Smells good," he said, peering into the pot on the stove. "You making your grandma's greens?" "Yeah. They'll be ready in about an hour." "Perfect. I'm gonna go change." He left, and I stood there stirring the pot, and I didn't cry, because if I started, I wouldn't stop. Dinner was the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than labor, harder than nursing school, harder than the year my mother died and I had to keep going because I had a child to raise and bills to pay. We sat at the table, Marcus, Maya, and me, and we ate and talked about normal things. Maya's algebra test, Marcus's project at work, something about upgrading the city's traffic light system that I didn't fully understand, but nodded along to anyway. My shift at the hospital tomorrow, the patient who told me I was her favorite nurse, the way that made me feel seen. Maya was quiet, picking at her food, and I wondered if she was thinking about the voice note, if she'd realized she'd sent it to me by mistake. She kept glancing at me, her eyes dark and worried, and I wanted to tell her it was okay, that I wasn't angry at her, that she'd actually done me a favor, but I couldn't. Not with Marcus sitting right there, scooping greens onto his plate, asking for the cornbread, acting like everything was fine. "You okay, baby?" Marcus asked Maya. "You're barely eating." "I'm fine, just not that hungry." "You feeling sick?" "No, Dad. I'm fine." He looked at me. "She coming down with something?" "I don't think so. Probably just tired." "Well, make sure you get some rest. You've got that presentation tomorrow, right?" "Yeah." We finished dinner in near silence after that, and when Maya excused herself to go do homework, I started clearing the table. Marcus helped, and we moved around each other in the kitchen the way we'd been doing for years, a choreographed dance of domesticity. He scraped plates, I loaded the dishwasher. He wiped down the counters, I put away the leftovers. We'd done this hundreds of times, thousands maybe, and it had always felt comfortable. Now it felt like performing in a play where I was the only one who knew the theater was on fire. "You're quiet tonight," he said. "Just tired. Work rough?" "A little." He came up behind me and put his arms around my waist, and I went rigid. I couldn't help it. His touch felt wrong, invasive, like someone I didn't know was putting their hands on me. He noticed. "You sure you're okay?" "I'm fine. Really. Just a long day." He kissed the back of my neck and let go, and I finished loading the dishwasher with my hands shaking so hard I almost dropped a plate. That night in bed, I lay next to him in the dark and listened to him breathe, and I thought about all the nights I'd done this before, all the nights I'd fallen asleep next to him, feeling safe and loved and certain. I thought about the morning he'd proposed, a picnic in Rock Creek Park, both of us 23 and broke, and so full of hope it hurt. I thought about our wedding, small and simple at my mother's church, my dress from David's bridal and his suit borrowed from his cousin. I thought about Maya, our only child, the pregnancy we'd tried for, and the miscarriage before her, and the way Marcus had cried when the doctor finally said, "It's a girl." I thought about 17 years of building a life together, and I wondered how much of it had been real. I thought about our first apartment, that tiny one-bedroom in Columbia Heights with the radiator that clanged all winter, and the neighbors upstairs who fought every Saturday night. I thought about how we'd saved for 3 years to buy this house, how we'd walked through it on a Sunday afternoon, and both known immediately it was the one. I thought about painting Maya's nursery together, Marcus on the ladder, and me calling out instructions, both of us giddy with exhaustion and anticipation. I thought about the Thanksgivings and Christmases and birthdays, the family photos we'd taken every year on the front porch, Maya growing taller in each one, while Marcus and I stayed mostly the same. I thought about the fights we'd had, over money, over parenting, over whose turn it was to do the dishes, and how we'd always worked through them. I thought about the year his father died and how I'd held him while he cried. I thought about the year I'd gotten passed over for a promotion and how he'd taken me to dinner and told me they were fools for not recognizing my worth. I thought about the way he still reached for my hand when we walked together, the way he still kissed me goodbye every morning, the way he'd look at Maya with such fierce pride it made my chest ache. Had all of that been a lie? Or was the lie just the part I didn't know about yet? I didn't sleep. I lay there until the sky started to lighten, until Marcus's alarm went off at 5:30, and he rolled over and kissed my forehead before getting up for work. I waited until I heard the shower, heard him moving around the bedroom getting dressed, heard the front door close behind him. Then I got up and got ready in the dark, moving quietly so I wouldn't wake Maya. I got to Patricia Okafor's office at 5:50. The lights were on, and she buzzed me in when I pressed the intercom. She was maybe 50, tall and elegant even at 6 in the morning, her locks pulled back in a low bun, her suit crisp and professional. Her office was in a small brick building in Northeast D.C., near Union Market, and inside it smelled like coffee and leather and something floral I couldn't place. Her office was small but neat, law books lining one wall, framed degrees on another. There was a photo on her desk of 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl, both smiling. Her kids, I assumed. She gestured to a chair across from her desk, and I sat. "Do you have the voice note?" she asked. I pulled out my phone and played it for her. She listened without interrupting, her face neutral, and when it ended she said, "Play it again." I did. "And you haven't confronted your husband?" "No." "Good. Has your daughter said anything to you about it?" "No. I think she doesn't know I got it." Patricia nodded and pulled out a legal pad. "Okay, here's what's going to happen. First, I need to ask you some questions. Then we're going to talk about your options. Everything you tell me is confidential. I need you to be completely honest with me, even if it's hard. Can you do that?" "Yes." "How long have you been married?" 17 years. "Any previous marriages for either of you?" "No." "Children?" "One daughter, Maya. She's 15. "Are you employed?" "Yes. I'm a nurse at Howard University Hospital." "How long have you worked there?" 12 years. "And your husband?" "He's a civil engineer, works for the D.C. Department of Transportation. He's been there about 20 years. She wrote it all down, her handwriting neat and small. "Do you own your home?" "Yes. Well, we're paying a mortgage. We bought it 10 years ago." "Whose name is on the deed?" "Both of ours." "Do you have joint bank accounts?" "Yes. We have a joint checking and a joint savings. I also have my own checking account for my personal expenses." "Does he have a separate account?" "I don't think so. I mean, I never asked." Do you have credit cards? Yes, 2 that are in both our names and 1 that's just mine. What about retirement accounts? We both have 401ks through work, and we have a small investment account we started a few years ago for Maya's college. She kept writing, and I kept answering, and slowly, methodically, she built a picture of my life on paper. Assets and debts and income and expenses. The practical scaffolding that held up a marriage. When she finished, she looked up. Okay, here's what you need to understand. DC is an equitable distribution jurisdiction, which means if you get divorced, the court will divide your marital property fairly, but not necessarily equally. The fact that he's been having an affair doesn't change that. DC is a no-fault divorce jurisdiction. Infidelity might matter for other things, but it won't affect how property gets divided. So it doesn't matter that he cheated. It matters emotionally. It matters morally. But legally, not as much as you'd think. What matters more is what you want. Do you want to try to save the marriage? Do you want a divorce? Do you want him out of the house? I sat there and tried to answer, but the truth was I didn't know. 24 hours ago, I'd been washing greens and thinking about whether we needed milk. Now I was sitting in a lawyer's office at 6 in the morning trying to decide if I wanted to end my marriage. I don't know, I said. I need to talk to him first. I need to know who it is, how long it's been going on, why. That's fair. But before you do that, I need you to protect yourself. Do you have access to your financial documents? Most of them, yeah. Good. I want you to make copies of everything. Bank statements, credit card statements, tax returns, mortgage documents, retirement account statements, everything. If it's digital, screenshot it or download it. If it's paper, scan it or photocopy it. Can you do that? Yes. Do it today, before you confront him. Because once he knows that you know, he might start hiding assets or draining accounts. I've seen it happen. People who you think would never do that. People who've been married for decades, who have kids together, who go to church every Sunday. They'll clean out a joint account overnight. You need to protect yourself. The words hit me like a slap. This was real. This wasn't just about a voice note and hurt feelings. This was about money and property, and the possibility that the man I'd trusted with my entire life might try to screw me over. Okay, I said, I'll do it. Good. One more thing. I want you to start keeping a journal. Write down everything. Dates, times, anything suspicious, anything your daughter tells you, any conversations you have with your husband. The more documentation you have, the better. You think this is going to go to court? I think you need to be prepared for every possibility. She gave me a list of things to do, practical steps that felt both too concrete and not concrete enough. I thanked her and left, and I sat in my car in the parking lot for a long time before I could make myself drive to work. I went to work and moved through my shift on autopilot. I checked vitals, administered medications, updated charts, smiled at patients and their families. I was good at my job, good at compartmentalizing, good at putting aside my own pain to take care of other people. It's what nurses do. It's what Black women do. We hold it together when everything's falling apart because people are depending on us. But during my lunch break, I locked myself in the bathroom and cried. I thought about Maya, about what it must have been like for her to know this secret, to carry it around, to see her father with this other woman, whoever she was, and not know what to do. I thought about how much I'd failed her by not noticing, by being so absorbed in my own life that I missed what was happening right in front of me. What kind of mother doesn't notice when their daughter is carrying something that heavy? What kind of wife doesn't notice when their husband is living a double life? I thought about Marcus, about the lies he must have told, the planning he must have done to keep this hidden, the late nights at work that I'd never questioned, the conferences out of town that I'd helped him pack for, the times he said he was playing basketball with his boys from college and came home sweaty and tired. How much of it had been real? How many of those late nights had he actually been at work? How many of those conferences had he actually attended? How many of those basketball games had actually happened? I washed my face and went back to work, and when my shift ended at 7, I drove to Kendra's house instead of going home. She opened the door before I could knock, like she'd been watching for me. Come in. Inside, her house smelled like dinner, something with onions and garlic, the warm, savory smell of home. Her husband Devin was in the kitchen with their kids, and I could hear them talking, the normal chaos of a family at dinner time. She led me to the bedroom and closed the door. "Did you see the lawyer?" "Yeah." "What did she say?" "She said to get copies of all our financial documents before I confront him. She said once he knows I know, he might try to hide money or drain accounts." Kendra's face hardened. "You think he'd do that?" "I don't know. A week ago I would have said no. Now I don't know anything." "You get the documents yet?" "No. I just got off work." "You need help?" "No, I need to do it myself." She nodded. "You figured out who it is yet?" "No, but I'm going to." I stayed for dinner because I couldn't face going home yet. Couldn't face pretending everything was normal for another night. Devon's kids, my niece and nephew, ages 10 and 13, were loud and chaotic and exactly what I needed. They didn't know anything was wrong, didn't treat me like I was fragile, just fought over the remote and complained about homework and asked if I'd help them with their science project. Normal. Blessedly, exhaustingly normal. At 9, I finally went home. Marcus's car was in the driveway, and I sat in mine for a full minute, trying to gather the strength to go inside. When I did, he was on the couch watching basketball, and Maya was in her room with the door closed. "You're late," he said, not looking away from the TV. "Stopped at Kendra's." "You eat?" "Yeah." "Good. I saved you a plate anyway. It's in the fridge." I thanked him and went to the kitchen, and I stood there looking at the plate he'd made for me. Chicken, rice, green beans, and I wanted to throw it against the wall. Instead, I put it in the microwave and ate it standing at the counter, and when I finished, I went upstairs and knocked on Maya's door. "Yeah?" I opened it. She was at her desk, earbuds in, laptop open, doing homework or pretending to. She pulled them out when she saw me. "Hey, baby." "Hey, you okay?" She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw the conflict in her face. She wanted to tell me. She wanted to protect me. She didn't know which was more important. "I'm fine," she said finally. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right? Anything at all." "I know." I wanted to tell her I knew, wanted to save her from carrying this burden any longer. But Patricia's words echoed in my head. "Don't let on that you know." So I just kissed her forehead and told her I loved her and left. That night, after Marcus fell asleep, I got up and went to his office. It was a small room at the back of the house, more of a glorified closet, really, with a desk and a filing cabinet and his computer. I turned on the desk lamp and started going through drawers. I found our mortgage documents first. The original closing papers from 10 years ago, when we'd bought this house with a down payment we'd scraped together dollar by dollar. I remembered how excited we'd been, how we'd driven past the house a dozen times before the closing just to look at it, just to make sure it was real. I remembered the day we'd gotten the keys, how Marcus had picked me up and carried me over the threshold like we were newlyweds again, how we'd made love on the living room floor because we didn't have any furniture yet. I found our tax returns for the last 5 years, all neatly filed and labeled. I found bank statements going back 3 years. I found credit card statements, insurance policies, his 401k statements. Everything organized and accessible, like he'd never imagined I'd be going through them looking for evidence of betrayal. I took photos of everything with my phone, my hands shaking, my heart pounding so loud I was sure he'd hear it and come downstairs and catch me. But he didn't. He slept on, oblivious, while I documented our entire financial life. In the back of the bottom drawer, I found something that made my stomach drop. A credit card statement I'd never seen before. It was in his name only, from a bank we didn't use, and the balance was almost $8,000. I photographed every page, my stomach churning as I read the charges. Restaurants I'd never been to, places with names like Bistro Cacao and the Dabney and Rasica, fancy spots downtown where a meal for two could easily run $200. Hotels, the Hay Adams, the Jefferson, boutique places I'd never stayed in. Flowers from a shop I didn't recognize, multiple charges of $50 to $100, a jewelry purchase for $600 that I'd never received. The charges went back 6 months. 6 months of dinners and hotels and gifts, all paid for with money I'd never known about, all for a woman I didn't know. Except I did know her. I had to. Maya had said it was someone I trusted. I put everything back exactly how I'd found it and went back to bed, and I lay there in the dark next to my husband, this man who'd been living a double life and I felt something inside me turn to stone. The next morning, I called in sick to work. First time in 2 years. I sent the photos to Patricia, who called me back within an hour. "The credit card is good," she said. "It establishes a pattern of deception and financial dishonesty. The charges at hotels and restaurants will help build a timeline. Have you figured out who the other woman is?" "Not yet. You might want to ask your daughter. I don't want to put her in the middle of this." "She's already in the middle of it. She's the one who told you. By accident. Still, she might be able to give you information that will help. And Shanice, the sooner you know who it is, the sooner you can start dealing with this. Right now, you're operating blind." I knew she was right, but the thought of asking Maya, of making her choose between protecting her father and being honest with me, made me sick. But what choice did I have? I told Patricia I'd think about it and hung up. I spent the morning going through everything systematically, building a case like I was preparing for trial. I logged into our joint bank accounts and started going through transactions, looking for patterns. And there they were, once I knew to look for them. Cash withdrawals from our joint account, $300 at a time, always on Fridays, that I'd never noticed before because I didn't obsessively check our accounts. We both worked, we both contributed, we both trusted each other. Or I'd trusted him anyway. I pulled up our phone bill online and started going through the call logs. There was a number that appeared over and over, sometimes multiple times a day, sometimes for an hour or more. A DC area code, but not one I recognized. I wrote it down. I looked at his credit card statements, the ones from our joint cards, and found charges for gas on days he'd said he was working from home. I found charges at liquor stores when he didn't drink. I found charges at CVS for things we never had in the house. The more I looked, the more I found. And the more I found, the angrier I got. Not just at him, but at myself. How had I missed all of this? How had I been so blind? At noon, I called the number from our phone records. I used my cell phone, sitting in my car in the driveway of my own house, because I couldn't bring myself to make the call inside. My finger hovered over the green button for a full minute before I pressed it. It rang 3 times. Then a woman's voice said, "Hello?" I knew that voice. I knew it as well as I knew my own. I hung up without saying anything and sat there, my phone in my lap, trying to breathe through the realization that was crushing my chest like a physical weight. It was Simone, my work wife, my friend of 5 years, the woman I'd confided in about everything. My fears about Maya growing up too fast, my worries about money, my frustrations with Marcus working too much. The woman who'd been to my house for dinner, who'd met my daughter, who'd sat at my kitchen table and eaten my food and laughed at my jokes and hugged me goodbye and told me I was like a sister to her. The woman who'd been sleeping with my husband. I called Patricia back. "I know who it is." "Who?" "Simone Crawford. She works at the hospital with me. We're friends. We're friends." "Okay. Do you want to confront them separately or together?" "I don't know. I don't know what I want. Think about it. And Shanice, whatever you decide, make sure you do it on your terms. Not when you're angry, not when you're falling apart. When you're ready and you've thought it through. You only get one shot at this." I spent the rest of the day thinking. I thought about confronting Marcus at home, in front of Maya, so she'd see I was strong. I thought about confronting him at work, in public, so he'd be humiliated the way I was humiliated. I thought about confronting Simone first, making her tell me everything, making her suffer the way I was suffering. I thought about the last time I'd seen her at work, 3 days ago. We'd been in the break room, and she'd asked me how I was doing, and I'd told her I was tired, that Marcus had been working late a lot, that I felt like we were ships passing in the night. And she'd nodded sympathetically and said, "That's hard. You should talk to him about it." And the whole time, she'd known. She'd been the reason he was working late. She'd been the reason we were ships passing in the night. Had she felt guilty? Or had she just felt smug, knowing something I didn't, having access to my husband in ways I didn't even know about? I thought about all the conversations we'd had, all the times I'd confided in her, all the times I'd trusted her with my innermost thoughts and feelings. Had she told Marcus about them? Had they laughed about me together? Had my pain been entertainment for them? The rage that rose up in me was so sudden and so intense that I had to pull over, had to put the car in park and grip the steering wheel until my knuckles went white, had to breathe through it until I could see straight again. But underneath the rage was something worse. Shame. Shame that I'd been so stupid, so trusting, so naive. Shame that I hadn't seen it, hadn't suspected it, hadn't protected myself. Shame that other people had probably known. People at work, people who'd seen them together, people who'd kept their mouths shut because it wasn't their business or because they didn't want to be the one to tell me. How many people had known? How many people had looked at me with pity, had whispered about me behind my back, had watched me walk through the hospital with Simone and thought, that poor woman has no idea. I drove home and sat in my car for a long time before I could make myself go inside. That evening, I made dinner like normal. I set the table, called Marcus and Maya down, and we ate. Spaghetti with meat sauce, garlic bread, Caesar salad from a bag. Maya was quiet again, picking at her food, and Marcus talked about a meeting at work, about a deadline he was worried about a problem with one of the traffic signals on Connecticut Avenue that was causing backups during rush hour. I listened and nodded and asked questions, and inside, I was screaming. When we finished, I cleared the table and asked Marcus to stay. Maya, baby, can you go upstairs? I need to talk to your dad. She looked between us, her eyes wide and scared, and I gave her a small nod. It's okay. Go. She left, and I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard her door close softly. Marcus was still at the table, his plate in front of him, and he looked at me with this expression like he was trying to figure out what was coming. Like maybe he suspected, but wasn't sure. What's going on? I sat down across from him. I'd rehearsed this moment in my head a dozen times, had imagined what I'd say, how I'd say it. But now that it was happening, all those carefully planned words evaporated, and I was left with just the raw truth. I know about Simone. The color drained from his face. It happened so fast, it was almost comical. 1 second he looked normal, the next he looked like he might pass out. What? I know you've been having an affair with Simone Crawford. I know it's been going on for at least 6 months, probably longer. I know about the credit card, the hotels, the restaurants, all of it. So don't lie to me. Don't insult me by pretending you don't know what I'm talking about. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Shanice, don't say my name like that. Don't try to explain it away or make excuses. I just want to know one thing. Why? He looked down at his hands, and I saw his jaw working. Saw him trying to find words that would make this okay when nothing could make this okay. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, almost a whisper. I don't know. That's not good enough. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to tell me the truth. I want you to look me in the eye and tell me why you threw away 17 years of marriage for someone I thought was my friend. He looked up at me then, and his eyes were wet. Real tears or a performance? I couldn't tell anymore. It just happened. We were working on a project together for the hospital fundraiser, and we started talking, and it happened. It didn't just happen. You made a choice. You made 100 choices. Every time you called her, every time you met her at a hotel, every time you lied to me about where you were, every time you put a charge on that credit card I didn't know about. Those were choices. I know. Do you love her? He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. Everything I'd feared and everything I hadn't wanted to admit. I don't know. Jesus, Marcus. I never meant to hurt you. Well, you did. You hurt me, and you hurt Maya, and you destroyed this family. So, congratulations. I stood up and walked to the kitchen, needing to put space between us, needing to not be looking at his face anymore. He followed me. Shanice, please, can we talk about this? Can we try to work through it? Work through it? You want to work through it? Yes, I made a mistake. I know I did. But we have a life together. We have a daughter. That has to mean something. It meant something to me. Apparently it didn't mean enough to you. That's not fair. I turned on him, and I felt 17 years of being the understanding wife, the supportive partner, the one who held everything together, just crack open and spill out. You don't get to talk to me about fair. You've been lying to me for months. You've been sleeping with my friend. You opened a credit card I didn't know about and racked up $8,000 in debt, taking her to hotels and restaurants and buying her jewelry. Nothing about this is fair. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't believe you. What do you want me to do? Tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. I want you to leave. What? I want you to pack a bag and leave? Go stay with your brother or a friend or a hotel, I don't care. But I want you out of this house tonight. Shanice, this is my house too. And it's my house. And I'm telling you to leave. If you don't, I'll call the police and tell them you're making me feel unsafe. You can't do that. Watch me. We stood there in the kitchen, staring at each other across the space that used to hold our marriage, and I saw the moment he realized I was serious. I saw the anger flash across his face. How dare I? How dare I kick him out of his own house? How dare I make demands? But I also saw the calculation. He was thinking about how this would look. Thinking about divorce and custody and property division. Thinking about optics. Fine, he said finally. I'll go. But this isn't over. Yeah, it is. He went upstairs and I heard him moving around, opening drawers, the sound of a suitcase zipper. Maya's door opened and I heard them talking, his voice low and hers higher, cracking. She was crying. I wanted to go up there, wanted to hold her, but I stayed where I was. This was between them. When Marcus came back down, he had a duffel bag over his shoulder. He looked at me standing in the kitchen, and for a moment I thought he was going to say something. Apologize again, or plead his case, or try one more time to fix what he'd broken. But he didn't. He just walked to the door, and I heard it open and close, heard his car start in the driveway, heard him drive away. I stood there for a long time, just breathing, just being in the silence of my house without him in it. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs, and Maya appeared, her face blotchy and wet. Mom! I opened my arms and she came into them, and we stood there in the kitchen holding each other while she cried, and I didn't because I couldn't. Not yet. Not until I was sure she was okay. I'm sorry, she said into my shoulder. I'm so sorry. You don't have anything to be sorry for. I should have told you sooner. I should have... No. You did exactly what you needed to do. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault. Are you guys getting divorced? I don't know yet. Probably. Good, she said, and her voice was fierce in a way I'd never heard before. He doesn't deserve you. I held her tighter and tried to believe it. The next few days were a blur. I went back to work, and the first person I saw when I walked into the hospital was Simone. She was at the nurse's station, and when she saw me, her face went white. She knew. Marcus must have told her. Or maybe she'd just figured it out from the way I looked at her. Not with hurt, not with betrayal, but with nothing. Complete and total nothing. Like she was a stranger I'd never met and didn't care to know. She tried to approach me during my break. I was in the break room making coffee that I didn't really want, and she came in and closed the door behind her. Shanice, can we talk? No. Please, I need to explain. There's nothing to explain. You slept with my husband. You lied to my face for months. What else is there to say? I never meant for this to happen. I laughed, and it came out bitter and sharp. That's what he said. You two should get your stories straight. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything, but I am. You're right. It doesn't mean anything. I was in a bad place. My divorce was just finalized, and I was lonely, and Marcus was there, and... Stop. Just stop. I don't care about your bad place. I don't care about your loneliness. You're a grown woman who made a choice, multiple choices, and those choices hurt me. They hurt my daughter, so don't stand there and make excuses like you're the victim here. I'm not trying to... Get out. Shanice, get out of this room before I make you get out. She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw her weighing whether to push it. But something in my face must have told her I was serious, because she left without another word. Later that day, I went to HR and requested a transfer to a different unit. The HR manager, a woman named Carol who I'd known for years, asked me why. Personal reasons, I said. Does this have anything to do with Dr. Crawford? Simone wasn't a doctor, she was a nurse practitioner, but everyone at the hospital called her doctor anyway. It was a courtesy title, one she'd earned with her advanced degree. Once upon a time, I'd been proud to call her my friend. Yes, I said. Carol nodded. Okay, I'll see what I can do. How long will it take? Usually a few weeks, but given the circumstances, I might be able to expedite it. What circumstances? Shanice, you're not the first person to request a transfer because of a conflict with a colleague, and you won't be the last. I'll do what I can. A week later, I was moved to the cardiac unit. Different floor, different schedule, different people. I didn't have to see Simone anymore except in passing, and when I did, I looked right through her. Marcus kept calling. I didn't answer. He sent texts, long ones, explaining and apologizing and begging me to talk to him. I didn't respond. He showed up at the house once, when he knew I'd be home from work, and I opened the door and stood in the doorway, blocking him from coming in. "We need to talk," he said. "Talk to my lawyer. Come on, Shanice. Don't be like this." "Don't be like what? Don't be angry that you cheated on me? Don't be hurt that you betrayed me with someone I trusted? What exactly should I be like, Marcus? I want to work this out. I want to save our marriage. It's too late for that. Is it? Or are you just too proud to try?" That stopped me. For a second, I actually considered whether he was right. Was I being too proud? Was I throwing away our marriage because I couldn't forgive him? But then I thought about the credit card, about the hotels, about the 6 months of lies, and I knew the answer. This isn't about pride. This is about trust. And I don't trust you anymore. I don't know if I ever will again. Then let me earn it back. How? By doing what? By going to counseling? By promising you'll never do it again? How do I know you won't just get better at hiding it next time? Because I love you. No, you don't. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. You would have talked to me if you were unhappy. You would have suggested counseling. You would have done literally anything except lie to me and sleep with my friend. He stood there on the porch, and for a moment, I thought he was going to keep fighting. But then he just nodded, deflated, and walked back to his car. I closed the door and locked it and leaned against it until I could breathe again. Patricia filed for divorce 2 weeks later. We asked for primary custody of Maya, for the house, for half of everything else. Marcus hired his own lawyer, a man named Robert Crenshaw, who had a reputation for being aggressive, and the whole thing turned ugly fast. Marcus fought me on custody, claiming I was trying to alienate him from his daughter. His lawyer filed motions saying I was vindictive, that I was using Maya as a weapon, that I was refusing to let him see her. None of it was true. Maya was 15 and old enough to decide for herself how much she wanted to see her father. And she'd decided the answer was not much, but it didn't matter. His lawyer was painting a picture, and the truth was just a detail. He fought me on the house, saying he'd contributed just as much to the mortgage and deserved half the equity. Never mind that I'd been the one who'd found it, who'd negotiated with the seller, who'd managed all the repairs and renovations over the years while he was working late. Never mind that this was Maya's home, the only home she'd ever known, and tearing her away from it would be cruel. He wanted his half, and he was going to get it one way or another. He fought me on the financial division, trying to claim the secret credit card was for work expenses that he'd just forgotten to tell me about. Patricia tore that argument apart. None of the charges were work-related, and the dates corresponded with days he'd told me he was working late or out of town. But his lawyer kept pushing it anyway. It was exhausting. It was humiliating. Every 2 weeks, it seemed, there was another court date, another hearing, another round of depositions and interrogatories and discovery requests. Patricia tried to shield me from the worst of it, but there were some things I had to do myself, like sit in a conference room and answer questions about my marriage, about my sex life, about whether I'd ever suspected Marcus was cheating, about what kind of mother I was. That last one nearly broke me. Marcus's lawyer, this man in an expensive suit who'd never met me before that day, sat across from me and asked questions designed to make me look bad. Did I work long hours? Yes, I was a nurse. We all worked long hours. Did that mean I wasn't available for my daughter? No, I was always available for my daughter. Did I have a history of being controlling? No. Did I have a history of being vindictive? No. Did I think it was appropriate to kick my husband out of his own home without warning? Yes, when that husband had been lying to me for months and sleeping with my friend. His lawyer tried to twist everything, tried to make it sound like I was the problem, like I was the one who'd destroyed our marriage by being too demanding, too busy, too cold. And I sat there and answered every question calmly and professionally, even though inside I was screaming. Maya was the hardest part. She had to give a deposition, had to answer questions about what she knew, when she knew it, how she found out. She had to talk about her father's relationship with Simone, about seeing them together, about the texts she'd found on his phone. She cried through most of it. Patricia had warned me that depositions could be traumatic, especially for teenagers, but knowing it was coming didn't make it easier to watch. I sat in the waiting room outside the conference room where they were deposing her, and I could hear her voice through the door, shaking and small, and I wanted to burst in there and stop it, but I couldn't. This was part of the process. This was what divorce looked like. When it was over, she came out red-eyed and exhausted, and I hugged her and told her she'd been so brave, and she said, "I never want to do that again. You won't have to. That's the only time. Promise?" Promise. But I was wrong. Marcus's lawyer called her back 2 more times, asking follow-up questions, clarifying details, trying to poke holes in her story. And every time she had to go through it again, had to relive it, had to answer questions about her father's infidelity that no 15-year-old should have to answer. I started to hate the legal system with a passion I'd never felt for anything before. I understood why it existed, why we needed laws and rules and procedures. But the reality of it was so much uglier than the theory. The reality was expensive lawyers and endless paperwork and courtrooms that smelled like old wood and desperation. The reality was sitting across from the man I'd once loved and listening to his lawyer call me vindictive and controlling and unfit. The reality was watching my daughter get torn apart by a system that was supposed to protect her. 6 months in, I was exhausted, emotionally, physically, financially. Patricia's fees were adding up. I'd already spent $15,000 and we weren't even close to done. I'd drained my savings account, maxed out my credit card, taken out a loan. I was working as many shifts as the hospital would give me, picking up overtime whenever I could, but it was never enough. Kendra offered to help, but she and Devin had their own kids, their own expenses. I couldn't take money from them. Instead, I started selling things. The nice camera Marcus had bought me for our 10th anniversary, the designer handbag I'd splurged on when I got my last promotion, the jewelry I'd accumulated over the years, most of it gifts from Marcus, all of it tainted now with the knowledge of where he'd been getting the money. I sold it all on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, meeting strangers in parking lots and handing over pieces of my life for cash that I immediately turned over to Patricia. Maya noticed. "Mom, why are you selling everything?" "Because divorce is expensive, baby." "Is Dad helping pay for it?" "Dad has his own lawyer to pay for." "That's not fair." "A lot of things aren't fair." She looked at me with those dark, serious eyes, so much older than 15. "I hate him for doing this to us." "Don't hate him. He's still your father. He's a liar and a cheater. He's both of those things. But he's also the man who held you when you were a baby and taught you how to ride a bike and came to every single one of your school plays. People are complicated. I don't want them to be complicated. I want them to be good or bad." "I know, but that's not how it works." She left, and I sat there thinking about what I'd just said. Did I really believe it? That Marcus was complicated, that he contained multitudes, that he could be both the man who'd loved me and the man who'd betrayed me? Or was I just saying that because I didn't want Maya to hate her father? I didn't know, and I was too tired to figure it out. 8 months in, we finally went to trial. Not a jury trial. Family court doesn't work that way. Just a bench trial in front of a judge. Judge Morrison, a black woman in her 60s with gray locks and reading glasses and an expression that gave nothing away. The trial lasted 3 days. 3 days of witnesses and testimony and evidence. Patricia called me to the stand first, and I told my story. How I'd found out about the affair, what I'd discovered when I'd gone through our financial records, how Marcus's betrayal had affected me and Maya. I kept my voice steady, my answers clear and concise, but inside I was shaking. Marcus's lawyer cross-examined me, trying to trip me up, trying to make me look vindictive or unstable. He asked about the night I'd kicked Marcus out, whether I'd been angry, whether I'd threatened him. I said yes, I'd been angry. My husband had just admitted to a 6-month affair with my friend. Any reasonable person would have been angry. And no, I hadn't threatened him. I'd asked him to leave, and he'd left. "But you told him you'd call the police if he didn't leave," Marcus's lawyer said. "I said I'd call the police if he made me feel unsafe. There's a difference." Did he make you feel unsafe? I didn't know what he was capable of anymore. I just found out he'd been lying to me for months. I didn't feel safe. So you were afraid of him? I was afraid of what he might do. Had he ever been violent with you? No. Had he ever threatened you? No. So you weren't actually afraid. You just wanted him out of the house. Patricia objected, and the judge sustained it. But the damage was done. Marcus's lawyer had planted the seed that I'd been manipulative, that I'd used fear as a weapon to get what I wanted. Next, they called Marcus to the stand. He told his version of the story, how the affair had just happened, how he'd never meant to hurt me, how he wanted to save our marriage, but I'd refused to even try. He cried, actual tears, when he talked about Maya, about how much he loved her, about how I was trying to keep him from seeing her. Patricia cross-examined him, and she was ruthless. She walked him through the timeline of the affair, making him admit to every lie, every deception. She showed him the credit card statements and made him read the charges out loud, the hotels, the restaurants, the jewelry. She asked him how he'd paid for the credit card, and he admitted he'd been taking money out of our joint account, money that was supposed to be for our family, for our daughter's college fund, for our future. By the time Patricia was done with him, he looked smaller somehow, diminished. They called Maya to the stand on the second day. She was terrified. I could see it in the way her hands shook, the way she kept glancing at me for reassurance. But she told the truth. She told them about finding the texts on Marcus's phone, about seeing him with Simone, about the voice note she'd accidentally sent me. She told them how the affair had affected her, how she didn't trust her father anymore, how she didn't want to spend time with him. Marcus's lawyer tried to suggest that I'd coached her, that I'd turned her against her father. Maya shut that down immediately. Nobody turned me against him, she said, her voice strong despite the tears running down her face. He did that himself. On the third day, they called Simone. I hadn't known she was going to testify until that morning, and when Patricia told me, I'd almost lost it. Why does she have to testify? Why does she get to be part of this? Because Marcus's lawyer subpoenaed her. They're trying to establish that the affair was mutual, that Marcus wasn't some predator who seduced her. They want to make it look like they fell in love, like it was a real relationship and not just him cheating on you. I don't want to be in the same room as her. I know, but you have to be. This is your divorce, and you need to be present for all of it. So I sat there and watched Simone take the stand. She looked smaller than I remembered, thinner, her hair pulled back in a bun that made her face look drawn. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Marcus's lawyer asked her about the affair, and she told her version. How they'd been working together on a project, how they'd started talking, how it had turned into something more, how Marcus had told her his marriage was over, that he and I were just going through the motions, that he was planning to leave me anyway. I sat there listening to her lie, because I knew it was a lie, knew that Marcus had never told her he was leaving me, knew that he'd probably told her whatever she wanted to hear so he could keep sleeping with her. And I felt something inside me go cold. Patricia cross-examined her too. She asked Simone whether she'd known Marcus was married when they started the affair. Yes. She asked whether Simone had been to our house, had met our daughter, had sat at our table and eaten our food. Yes. She asked whether Simone had listened to me complain about my marriage, had given me advice, had pretended to be my friend while she was sleeping with my husband. Yes. So you lied to her, Patricia said. Every time you saw her, every time you talked to her, you were lying. I didn't mean to hurt her, but you did hurt her. You betrayed her trust. You destroyed a friendship, and you participated in the destruction of her marriage. Is that correct? I didn't destroy her marriage. Her marriage was already... Please answer the question. Did you participate in the destruction of her marriage? Simone looked at the judge, then at Marcus, then finally at me, and for the first time since she'd taken the stand, our eyes met. Yes, she said quietly. I did. That should have felt like a victory, but it just felt empty. Judge Morrison took a week to make her decision. A week of waiting and worrying and trying not to think about what would happen if I lost, if the judge decided Marcus deserved equal custody, if I had to sell the house, if I ended up with nothing. When we went back to court for the ruling, I was so nervous I thought I might throw up. Judge Morrison read from her decision, her voice neutral and professional. She'd clearly spent the week going through everything, analyzing every piece of evidence, weighing every testimony. She started with custody. The court finds that Ms. Williams should be awarded primary physical custody of the minor child, with Mr. Williams receiving parenting time on alternating weekends and 1 evening per week. The court notes that the minor child has expressed a clear preference to remain primarily with her mother, and given her age and maturity, the court gives significant weight to her preference. I felt Kendra's hand squeeze mine. First victory. With regard to the marital home, the court finds that Ms. Williams should be awarded the home, with the understanding that she will refinance the mortgage and buy out Mr. Williams' share of the equity within 6 months. The court notes that the home has been the child's primary residence for the past 10 years, and that maintaining stability for the child is a priority. Second victory. But it came with a catch. I had to buy out Marcus's half of the equity. That meant I needed to come up with about $80,000. I didn't have $80,000. I'd have to take out a loan, refinance, figure something out. With regard to the division of marital assets, the court finds that all marital property should be divided equitably. The retirement accounts will be divided equally. The investment accounts will be divided equally. Each party will retain their own vehicle. Personal property will be divided by agreement of the parties, or if they cannot agree, by the court. Standard stuff. I'd expected that. With regard to the credit card debt in Mr. Williams' name only, the court finds that Ms. Williams did not incur this debt, did not benefit from this debt, and should not be responsible for this debt. The court orders that Mr. Williams is solely responsible for repayment of this debt. Third victory. A small one, but I'd take it. Finally, the court wishes to address the issue of Mr. Williams's infidelity. While the District of Columbia is a no-fault divorce jurisdiction, and the court cannot award damages based solely on infidelity, the court notes that Mr. Williams's conduct has had a significant impact on the child and on Ms. Williams's ability to trust. The court finds that Mr. Williams's deception, particularly with regard to the undisclosed credit card and the financial resources diverted to support his extramarital relationship, demonstrates a pattern of dishonesty that justifies the court's decision to award primary custody to Ms. Williams. Judge Morrison looked up from her papers and looked directly at Marcus. Mr. Williams, your daughter is 15 years old. In 3 years, she'll be an adult, and you'll have no legal right to see her at all unless she chooses to maintain a relationship with you. I strongly encourage you to use this time wisely, to rebuild the trust you've broken, and to be the father she deserves. Because right now, based on the evidence I've seen and the testimony I've heard, you're not being that father. Marcus's face went red, but he didn't say anything. The judge looked at me. Ms. Williams, I know this has been a difficult process. I hope you and your daughter can move forward and build a good life. That's all. She banged her gavel, and it was over. The aftermath of divorce is strange. There's no manual for it, no guidebook that tells you how to navigate the first year of being single after 17 years of marriage. There's no roadmap for explaining to your daughter why her father only sees her every other weekend now. There's no instruction set for how to sleep alone in a bed you used to share, how to make dinner for 2 instead of 3, how to stop reaching for your phone to text someone who isn't part of your life anymore. The first few months were the hardest. I had to refinance the mortgage, which meant dealing with banks and loan officers and credit checks. My credit had taken a hit from all the legal fees I'd racked up, so getting approved wasn't easy. But eventually, I found a lender who would work with me, and I signed papers that made the house truly mine. I had to buy out Marcus's share of the equity, which meant taking out a second mortgage. $80,000 plus interest spread out over 15 years. It felt like a millstone around my neck, but it was worth it to know that this house, Maya's house, was safe. I threw myself into work. I picked up extra shifts, volunteered for the least desirable assignments, said yes to everything. It was partly for the money. I needed every dollar I could get to pay the mortgage and the legal fees and the mounting credit card debt. But it was also to avoid being home alone with my thoughts. Maya struggled too. She saw Marcus every other weekend, like the custody agreement said, but the visits were strained. He tried too hard, took her to expensive restaurants she didn't want to go to, bought her things she didn't ask for. He was trying to buy her love, and she saw right through it. "I don't want to go this weekend," she told me one Friday evening. "Baby, you have to. It's in the custody agreement. Can't you just tell him I'm sick?" "No, I can't lie to him, and I can't keep you from him unless there's a real reason. I don't like being there. It's uncomfortable. I know, but he's your father, and he loves you. If he loved me, he wouldn't have done what he did." I didn't have an answer for that. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I heard through the hospital grapevine that Simone had quit and moved to Baltimore. Rumor was, she and Marcus had tried to make it work but couldn't. Part of me felt vindicated. See, you destroyed your life for nothing. But mostly, I just felt sad. Sad for the friendship that had been a lie. Sad for the time I'd wasted believing in something that wasn't real. I ran into her once, about a year after she'd left. I was at Target, mindlessly browsing the home goods section, and I turned a corner, and there she was. We both froze. "Shanice," she said. "Simone, how are you?" "Fine." "You?" "Fine." We stood there in the aisle, two women who used to be friends, who used to share everything, and now we had nothing to say to each other. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "I know I've said it before, but I am. I was wrong. What I did was wrong." "Yeah, it was. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I know." I looked at her and tried to feel something. Anger, betrayal, satisfaction that she looked as miserable as I felt, but I just felt tired. "Okay," I said. "I heard that. Are you seeing anyone?" "That's none of your business." "Right, sorry." She left, and I stood there for a long time before I could make myself keep shopping. I wasn't seeing anyone. The thought of dating, of being vulnerable with someone new, of trusting someone with my heart after what Marcus had done, terrified me. But about a year and a half after the divorce, Kendra convinced me to try online dating. "Just make a profile," she said. "You don't have to meet anyone if you don't want to. Just see what's out there." So I did. I made a profile on a dating app, chose photos that made me look approachable but not desperate, wrote a bio that was honest but not too revealing. And then I swiped through an endless parade of men who all seemed to blend together. I went on a few dates. Dinner with a man who talked about his ex-wife the entire time. Coffee with a man who asked if I'd be willing to help him move that weekend. Drinks with a man who spent the whole date on his phone. I was ready to give up when I matched with someone named David. He was a teacher at a middle school in Northeast DC, and his profile made him seem kind and funny and normal. We messaged back and forth for a week before we agreed to meet for coffee. He was better in person than he was in his photos. Tall and lean, with warm brown skin and eyes that crinkled when he smiled. We talked for 2 hours, and when it was over, I realized I hadn't thought about Marcus once. We went out again. And again. And slowly, carefully, I started to let my guard down. David knew about my divorce. I told him on our 3rd date, figured it was better to get it out of the way early. He listened without judgment, and when I finished, he said, "That must have been really hard." It was. It still is sometimes. "Do you think you'll ever be able to trust someone again?" "I don't know. I want to, but I'm scared." "That's fair. I'm scared too." "You are?" "Yeah. My ex cheated on me too. Left me for her co-worker. So I get it." We sat there, 2 damaged people trying to figure out if we could build something new out of our broken pieces. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe it was possible. It's been 3 years since Maya sent that voice note. 3 years since my life exploded and I had to rebuild from scratch. And if I'm being honest, I'm still rebuilding. Some days are better than others. Some days I wake up and feel strong and capable and proud of myself for getting through it. Other days I wake up and feel like I'm drowning. But I'm here. I'm still standing. And that counts for something. Maya's 18 now, a senior in high school, getting ready to leave for college in the fall. She got into Howard. Full scholarship, thank God, because there was no way I could afford tuition on top of everything else. She's smart and strong and more emotionally intelligent than I was at her age. She sees her father every other weekend still, though sometimes she makes excuses not to go. Their relationship is better than it was right after the divorce, but it'll never be what it was before. That trust is broken, and I don't know if it can be repaired. I'm still with David, 3 years in, and we're talking about moving in together, maybe getting married eventually. It's slow and careful, the way you move when you've been burned before. But it's good. He's good. He makes me laugh. He listens when I need to talk. He doesn't try to fix everything. He just shows up. I'm still working at Howard, still on the cardiac unit. I got promoted to charge nurse last year, which came with a pay raise that finally allowed me to breathe a little. I'm not drowning in debt anymore, though I'm still paying off that second mortgage and will be for the next 12 years. The house is different now. I painted the bedroom a color Marcus would have hated. I replaced the couch we bought together with one I picked out myself. I put up photos of me and Maya, me and Kendra, me and David. I'm slowly erasing his fingerprints, making this space mine. Kendra's still my rock. She was there through all of it. The crying jags, the angry rants, the nights when I couldn't sleep because I was spiraling about money or the future or whether I'd ever feel whole again. She never judged me, never told me to get over it, just showed up and held space for me to fall apart. I joined a support group for divorced women at my church, and that's helped too. Sitting in a circle with other women who've been through it, who understand the particular pain of betrayal, who can laugh about the absurdity of it all, even while acknowledging how much it hurts. We meet twice a month, drink weak church coffee, and remind each other that we're survivors. I think about Marcus sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. I heard he's still with Simone. They got back together about a year after she moved to Baltimore, and from what I understand, they're engaged now. Good for them, I guess. I hope they're happy. I hope it was worth it. Do I still love him? No, I don't think I do. I love the memory of who I thought he was, the life I thought we were building. But that person didn't exist. He was a fiction, a story I told myself to make sense of a man who was capable of lying to me for months while looking me in the eye every single day. What I've learned is that betrayal doesn't just happen once. It keeps happening, in small ways, long after the initial wound. It happens when you're lying in bed at night and you remember something he said and realize it was probably a lie. It happens when you're doing something mundane, like grocery shopping, and you see a couple holding hands and you feel that stab of grief for what you thought you had. It happens when your daughter says something about not trusting people, and you realize you've passed your trauma onto her, that she'll carry this with her into her own relationships. But healing doesn't happen once either. It's not like you wake up one day and you're fixed, you're over it, you've moved on. Healing is slow and messy and non-linear. Some days you feel strong, some days you fall apart. Some days you're both at the same time. I've learned to be okay with that. I've learned that I don't have to have it all figured out, that it's okay to still be angry sometimes, to still grieve what I lost, to still struggle with trust even while I'm building something new with David. I've learned that being broken doesn't mean being unfixable. It just means being human. The hardest lesson has been learning how to forgive myself, not for what happened. That wasn't my fault. But for not seeing it sooner, for trusting too easily, for being so focused on holding everything together that I missed the signs that everything was falling apart. I've had to learn that I did the best I could with the information I had, and that's enough. It has to be enough. I've also had to learn how to let Maya process this in her own way, on her own timeline. She's angry at her father in a way I'm not anymore, and I have to let her be angry. I can't force her to forgive him, can't tell her she needs to have a relationship with him just because he's her father. She's almost an adult, and she gets to decide what kind of relationship she wants with him, if any. Last week, she asked me if I regretted marrying him. We were in the kitchen making dinner together, something we do more often now that it's just the two of us, and she asked it casually, like she was asking about the weather. Do you regret it? Marrying Dad? I thought about it while I chopped onions, taking my time to get the answer right. No, I don't regret it. Really, even after everything? Even after everything. Because if I hadn't married him, I wouldn't have you. And you're the best thing that ever happened to me. That's corny, Mom. It's true. And besides, I can't spend my life regretting the past. I can only work with what I have now. She was quiet for a moment, and then she said, I think I get that. Yeah? Yeah, like, what happened sucks. But it happened. And we're okay. We're gonna be okay. We are. And Mom, I'm proud of you. For leaving him. For fighting for us. For not just accepting it. I had to put down the knife because my eyes were blurring with tears. Thank you, baby. That means everything to me. She hugged me, and we stood there in the kitchen with dinner half made and tears running down both our faces, and it was one of those moments where I felt like maybe I'd done something right after all. The voice note is still on my phone. I've thought about deleting it 100 times, but I can't quite bring myself to do it. It's evidence, yes, but it's also a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you comes wrapped in an accident, in a mistake, in a teenage girl hitting send on the wrong chat. A reminder that the truth finds a way out, even when people are trying their hardest to hide it. A reminder that I was strong enough to hear that truth and act on it instead of pretending I didn't know, instead of making excuses, instead of staying in a marriage that was built on lies. Sometimes I listen to it, late at night when I can't sleep, when I'm questioning myself or wondering if I made the right choice. And every time I hear Maya's voice saying, she has no idea, and I think, but I do know now. I know, and I survived, and I built something new. That has to count for something. David asked me to marry him last month. We were at the tidal basin, watching the cherry blossoms bloom, and he got down on one knee right there on the path with tourists taking photos all around us. I said yes. Not because I need to be married, not because I need someone to complete me or take care of me. I've proven to myself that I can do that on my own. I said yes because I want to, because David is kind and honest, and because when he looks at me, I don't see pity or judgment. I see partnership. The ring is simple, a thin gold band with a small diamond, nothing flashy. He said he'd picked it because it reminded him of me, understated, strong, beautiful, in a quiet way. I ugly cried right there in front of all those tourists. We're planning a small wedding next spring, after Maya graduates and heads off to Howard. Just close family and friends. Nothing big or elaborate. I don't need the spectacle. I just need the commitment, the promise that this time is different, that this person is different. Maya's excited. She's already planning her maid of honor speech, she tells me, and it's going to be epic. I told her to keep it PG-13 at least. She said she'd think about it. Kendra cried when I told her. Happy tears, she said, though I think they were also relief. Relief that I was okay, that I'd made it through, that I was choosing to be happy again, instead of letting what Marcus did define the rest of my life. I haven't told Marcus yet. I'll have to eventually. Maya will tell him if I don't, but I'm not in a hurry. This moment is mine, and I don't want his reaction, whatever it might be, to touch it. When I do tell him, I imagine he'll say congratulations and mean it. Or maybe he'll be hurt, or jealous, or angry. I don't know, and I don't really care. He doesn't get a vote in my happiness anymore. He gave up that right when he decided to betray me. I went back to therapy a few months ago. I'd done some right after the divorce, but I'd stopped once things stabilized, once I felt like I had my feet under me again. But I realized I was still carrying things I needed to work through. Not just about Marcus, but about trust and vulnerability and how to be in a healthy relationship after being in one that wasn't. My therapist's name is Dr. Chen, and she's helped me see patterns I didn't know I had. Like how I tend to override my own instincts to keep the peace. Like how I have a hard time asking for help because I've always been the one helping everyone else. Like how I still sometimes feel like I failed, even though intellectually I know the affair wasn't my fault. You can know something up here, she said once, tapping her temple, and not feel it here, tapping her chest. That's what we're working on. Getting your head and your heart on the same page. It's slow work, but it's good work. One of the things she had me do was write a letter to Marcus that I'd never send. Just get everything out, all the anger and hurt and betrayal, without worrying about how it sounded or whether it was fair. So I did. I sat down one evening after Maya went to bed and I wrote 10 pages, front and back, of everything I'd never said to him. I told him how much he'd hurt me, how he'd stolen years of my life that I'd never get back, how he'd damaged our daughter in ways that might take her years to heal from, how he'd made me doubt myself, doubt my worth, doubt whether I was lovable at all. But I also told him that I was stronger than he'd given me credit for, that I'd survived and rebuilt and found happiness again, that he didn't get to take that from me, that I was done letting him have power over my life. When I finished, I read it out loud to myself, and then I burned it in the sink, watched the pages curl and blacken and turn to ash. Dr. Chen had said I could mail it if I wanted to, but I didn't want to give him that. I didn't want him to have my pain in writing, to keep it, to read it whenever he wanted to feel something. This was for me, the act of writing it, of naming what he'd done, of releasing it. That was enough. I've started volunteering with a local organization that helps women going through divorce. I meet with them one-on-one, help them navigate the legal system, connect them with resources, just listen when they need someone who understands. It's heartbreaking work, hearing their stories, seeing their pain, knowing exactly what they're going through because I've been there. But it's also healing, being able to take the worst thing that ever happened to me and use it to help other women feels like redemption somehow. Like maybe all that pain wasn't for nothing. Like maybe I can be the person for them that I needed when I was going through it. Last month, I met with a woman named Jasmine who reminded me so much of myself 3 years ago. She'd just found out her husband was cheating, and she was devastated, terrified, had no idea what to do or where to start. "I feel so stupid," she said. "How did I not see it? How did I not know?" "You're not stupid. He lied to you. That's on him, not you. But there must have been signs. I must have missed something. Maybe. Or maybe he was just really good at lying. Either way, it doesn't matter now. What matters is what you do next." "What did you do?" I told her my story. Not all of it. We didn't have that kind of time. But enough. I told her about the voice note, about calling the lawyer, about documenting everything, about fighting for my daughter and my home and my dignity. I told her about how hard it was, how long it took, how expensive and exhausting and soul-crushing the whole process had been. And then I told her about the other side, about how I'd survived, how I'd rebuilt, how I was getting married again to a man who treated me the way I deserved to be treated. I told her that it was possible to get through this, that it was possible to be happy again, that she was stronger than she thought she was. She cried, and then she thanked me. And when she left, I felt like maybe I'd made a difference, however small. That's what I'm trying to do now. Make a difference. Help other women avoid the mistakes I made, or at least help them navigate the aftermath with a little less pain than I had. Turn my trauma into something useful, something that matters. Because that's the thing about surviving. It's not enough to just get through it. You have to figure out what you're surviving for, what you're building, what kind of life you want on the other side. And for me, that life includes helping other women find their way through the darkness. Maya leaves for Howard in August. We've started packing up her room, deciding what she'll take with her and what she'll leave behind. It's bittersweet, this letting go, this transition from child to adult. But I'm proud of her. Proud of the woman she's becoming. Proud of how she's handled everything life has thrown at her with grace and strength and courage. "Are you going to be okay?" she asked me the other day. "When I'm gone? I'm going to miss you like crazy. But yeah, I'll be okay. I've got David, I've got Kendra, I've got work. I'll be fine. Promise?" "Promise." "And Maya, I'm so proud of you. Not just for getting into Howard, but for everything. For being brave enough to tell me the truth, even if it was by accident. For getting through the divorce. For not letting what your father did define you. I learned that from you." "Yeah? Yeah. You didn't let it define you either. You could have, fallen apart or become bitter or closed yourself off, but you didn't. You kept going. You built a new life. That's pretty badass, Mom." I laughed through my tears. "Thanks, baby." "And Mom, that voice note? I'm glad I sent it to you. I know it hurt you, and I know everything that came after was hard, but I'm glad you know. I'm glad you didn't waste any more years with him." "Me too." We hugged, and I thought about how much we'd both grown in the last 3 years. How we'd both survived something that could have destroyed us. How we'd both learned to be strong in different ways. She pulled back and looked at me. "Do you think you'll ever talk to Dad about it? Really talk? Not just the logistics stuff?" "I don't know. Maybe, someday, but not anytime soon." "That's fair. I don't think I'm ready to really talk to him either. I see him and we do stuff, but it's surface level, you know? We don't talk about the important things. That might change when you're older, or it might not. Either way is okay." "Is it, though? Is it okay to just not have a relationship with your father?" "Maya, you have to do what's right for you. If that means having a surface-level relationship with him, that's okay. If it means cutting him off completely, that's okay too. And if it means working through it and rebuilding, that's also okay. There's no right answer here. I wish there was. I know, baby. Me too. The wedding is in 3 months. Small, intimate, just the people who matter most. Maya as my maid of honor, Kendra as a bridesmaid, David's brother as his best man, my co-workers from the hospital, the women from my divorce support group, Patricia Okafor, who I've stayed in touch with and who's become a friend, the pastor from my church who helped me through the darkest days. No big white dress this time. I'm wearing a cream-colored suit that makes me feel powerful and elegant. No elaborate reception, just dinner at a restaurant we love, with good food and good wine and good people. No honeymoon right away. David and I are saving that for after Maya's settled at Howard, after we've had time to breathe and plan. This wedding isn't about the spectacle. It's about the commitment. It's about standing up in front of the people we love and promising to be honest with each other, to choose each other, to build something real. I'm not naive this time. I know that marriage is hard work, that it requires constant communication and compromise and choosing each other over and over again. I know that there will be hard days, that we'll fight, that we'll disappoint each other sometimes. But I also know that David is not Marcus, that he's proven himself over and over again in the last 3 years, that when I told him about my divorce, about the affair, about my trust issues, he didn't run. He stayed. He listened. He showed me through his actions that he was different. And I'm different too. I'm not the woman I was 3 years ago, the one who ignored her instincts to keep the peace, who made excuses for behavior that shouldn't be excused. I'm stronger now, more sure of myself, more willing to speak up when something doesn't feel right. If I've learned anything from what happened with Marcus, it's that you can't build a relationship on hope and wishful thinking. You have to build it on truth and trust and the willingness to do the hard work when things get difficult. And I'm ready to do that work. With David. For us. I saw Marcus a few weeks ago at Maya's graduation. I knew he'd be there. It was her high school graduation. Of course he'd be there, but I hadn't seen him in person in over a year. We'd communicated through lawyers and email, coordinating Maya's schedule, but we hadn't been in the same space. He looked older, grayer, thinner maybe, or maybe just worn down in a way I couldn't quite name. He was there with Simone, and they sat on the opposite side of the auditorium from me and David. After the ceremony, when Maya was taking photos with her friends, Marcus approached me. "Shanice, can we talk?" "About what?" "I heard you're getting married." "Maya told you." "Yeah. Congratulations." "Thank you." We stood there awkwardly, 2 people who used to know everything about each other and now knew almost nothing. He looked like he wanted to say something more, but he didn't seem to know where to start. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "I know I've said it before, but I need to say it again. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm sorry for hurting Maya. I was selfish and stupid, and I threw away the best thing I ever had." I looked at him and tried to feel something. Anger, satisfaction, grief. But I just felt tired. "Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Marcus? That I forgive you? That it's all water under the bridge? That we can be friends now?" "No. I wanted you to know that I know. That I live with it every day. That I see what I lost." "Good. You should see it. You should live with it. Because what you did didn't just hurt me for a few months. It changed me. It changed Maya. It changed the trajectory of both of our lives." "I know. I don't think you do. I don't think you can possibly understand what it's like to have your entire life turned upside down because someone you trusted decided they wanted something else and didn't have the courage to be honest about it." He looked down at his shoes. "You're right. I don't. But I survived it. I rebuilt. And I'm happy now. Truly happy. In a way I don't think I was with you, even before I knew about the affair. So in a weird way, you did me a favor. I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse. I don't really care how it makes you feel." David appeared at my elbow then, and I felt his hand on my back, warm and steady. "Everything okay?" "Yeah." Marcus was just leaving. Marcus looked at David, and something passed between them, some male understanding I wasn't privy to. Then Marcus nodded and walked away. "You okay?" David asked. "I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. I just told him the truth, and it felt good. What truth? That I'm happy. That I survived. That he doesn't get to take that from me. David kissed my temple. I love you. I love you too. We found Maya and took 100 photos, and when I looked at them later, I realized that in every single one, I was smiling. Really smiling, not the fake smile I'd worn for so many years. The smile of someone who was genuinely happy, genuinely at peace, genuinely looking forward to the future. And that felt like the biggest victory of all. So here I am, 3 years later. 3 years since that voice note changed everything. 3 years since I called the lawyer and started the process of dismantling my marriage. 3 years since I thought my life was over. I'm not going to lie and say it's been easy. It hasn't. There have been nights I've cried myself to sleep. Days I've questioned every decision I've made. Moments I've wondered if I was strong enough to get through this. But I did get through it. I'm still here. And not just surviving, thriving. I have a job I love, a home that's mine, a daughter who's about to start college, a fiancé who treats me like I hung the moon. I have friends who showed up when I needed them, family who never doubted me, a therapist who helped me work through the trauma. I have a life that's mine, built on my terms, with my choices. And that's what I want you to know, if you're going through something like this. If you're standing in your kitchen listening to a voice note that's about to blow up your life, if you're wondering how you're going to survive, how you're going to pay the bills, how you're going to explain this to your kids, you will survive. It won't be easy, it won't be quick, it won't be painless, but you will survive. You'll cry and rage and grieve, and slowly, so slowly, you barely notice it happening. You'll start to heal. You'll start to rebuild. You'll start to remember who you were before all this, and you'll become someone new, someone stronger, someone who knows what she's capable of, someone who won't settle for less than she deserves. And one day, you'll wake up and realize that you're okay. Not just okay, happy. That the worst thing that ever happened to you didn't destroy you. It just showed you who you really are. That's what happened to me. That voice note, that accidental text, that moment of teenage carelessness that revealed the truth I'd been too blind or too scared to see. It was a gift, not one I would have chosen, not one I would wish on anyone, but a gift nonetheless, because it gave me the chance to choose myself, to fight for myself, to build a life that's true and honest and mine. And if my story helps you in any way, if it makes you feel less alone, if it gives you the courage to take that first step, calling the lawyer, gathering the documents, asking the hard questions, then I'm grateful, because we're all in this together, all of us trying to survive and heal and build something better. If you've stayed with me through this whole journey, if you've listened to every word and felt every emotion right alongside me, I'm honored. And if you want to keep following along, if you want to hear about the wedding and Maya's first year at college and whatever comes next, I'd love to have you with me. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this story isn't over. There are more chapters ahead, more lessons to learn, more healing to do, but I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not drowning, I'm not lost. I'm found, I'm whole, I'm free, and that's worth everything.